Welcome to Sewing Anastasia. Today we're going to go over how to lengthen and shorten a sewing pattern sleeve. Now you might think, well, I'm just going to chop some off on the end or add some to the bottom of the sleeve. But if you are working with a tapered sleeve pattern, which most sleeve patterns are, that method is not going to work out very well for you. So make sure you watch to the end so you can get all the tips on lengthening and shortening sleeve patterns so everything fits you beautifully. So first, let me show you what not to do and why you shouldn't do that. So I have my sleeve pattern here and I've taped some paper to the end because I would like to lengthen it. So you might think, okay, my sleeve needs to be 2 inches longer. So I'm going to make it 2 inches longer, but then I'm just going to blend the side of the sleeve down to that new line that I drew. This does not work only because let's say you've got a cuff pattern that goes into the bottom of this sleeve. Now, if I measure my original opening, I've got 8 1/4. And if I measure my new opening, I've only got 7 1/2. So my cuff pattern is no longer going to fit onto the bottom of my sleeve. And this is making the sleeve tighter at the opening. So now maybe you can't even fit your hand into the bottom of the sleeve. So by extending the sleeve like this, our opening got 3/4 of an inch smaller, which is a lot. So there are 2 ways to keep the proper opening length here of the bottom of the sleeve. You can extend each side and blend up to the sleeve, but I do think there's more room for air in the pattern, keeping the proportions by doing this. And if you want to make your sleeve shorter, you don't just want to chop it off at the bottom, because look what happens if I fold this up 2 inches. You can see that the sleeve opening would be bigger, which means the opening of your sleeve would be looser. And yes, you could blend up, making it smaller like the last method, but there's a lot of room for air there. Now we're gonna go over the method that I like best. It's easier and there's way less room for air. Before we get into that, if you're enjoying Sewing Anastasia, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you'd like to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my online and in-person courses along with the online sewing club, where you get a new pattern every single month. Now let's get back to adjusting this sleeve. First, I'm gonna show you how to lengthen the sleeve using a better method. The first thing you need to do is determine how much longer you would like your sleeve. I would like mine 2 inches longer. Now I'm going to make a line across my pattern roughly where my elbow is. So I'm going to draw a line right across my pattern. Now this is going to be my cutting line. We are going to cut our pattern in half right here. And this line should be perpendicular to your grain line. Now we're going to cut our pattern in half. Now we're going to grab some extra paper to add. So I've added some extra paper under my sleeve and taped it down. Now we want to extend our grain line. And now we have something to match up with our other pattern piece, because we want to match up the grain line. And since I'm extending 2 inches, I'm just measuring 2 inches down from the top piece on my pattern. And now I'm going to line up that grain line and line up the sleeve with the 2-inch line and tape it down. Now what we need to do is blend the sides together. So we want everything to be nice and smooth. And sometimes these will blend together real nice. And sometimes you need to do a little truing, chop off a little here, add a little extra there. So here it looks like I'm just gonna get rid of that little smidge there just to keep the sleeve nice and smooth. Now let's come over to the other side here. Now we don't want to just draw a straight line down. That's really funky. We want a nice smooth line. So we are going to be blending. So I'm going to take the angle of the sleeve there and I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to blend down. And here we're actually going to be chopping off a little bit of the sleeve. And that is okay because we've extended the sleeve, we've pushed everything down. Our forearm is not getting larger down here, it's actually getting smaller. So we are good, this will work. Now, something you want to take into consideration when you're lengthening or shortening something, especially when angles are involved, is measure the side of the sleeve take out the distance for your darts or pleats if you have them, and then measure the length on the other side of the sleeve and make sure they are the same number because we need to sew this underarm seam together. Your underarm seams are going to be okay most of the time, but it's always just good to double check anything you've altered to make sure it's going to sew together properly. So the great thing about this method is that we have not altered the bottom of the sleeve, which means if we have a cuff or something that sews into the bottom, all of our pattern pieces are still going to fit into here beautifully. We've just extended our sleeve length. And our opening is going to remain the same size. Now let's talk about how to make your sleeve shorter. So again, what's really important is keeping the same length at the opening here. So what we're going to do is draw a line a few inches up from the hem. And now this is going to be our cutting line. Now let's say I want to make this sleeve 2 inches shorter. I'm going to draw a line 2 inches up. And again, we made these lines perpendicular to the grain line here. So now it's time to cut. So I'm going to cut this bottom line. And I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to place it up here, making sure I'm matching up my grain line. So I don't want to match up the edge over here. I want to match up my grain line so that way I'm keeping my sleeve balanced, because you could very easily unbalance this sleeve. So now I'm going to cut off this extra chunk down here because it looks confusing because you can see it. So we got rid of that, but now you can see over here, these don't line up. So what we need to do is blend. Pattern drafting is all about blending, getting nice smooth lines. So I want to blend from here to the bottom. So you can see I actually need to add a little bit right here. So right here, we're going to add a little bit. And then right in here, we're going to cut this part off. So I'm going to tape a little extra paper under there. And now I'm going to line up my ruler with the opening of the sleeve, blending up here to this point. And now this is my new cutting line. There we go. So now my sleeve is shorter and the sleeve opening is still the same length. So if you have a cuff pattern or another pattern piece that's sewing into the very bottom of your sleeve, it's still going to fit. So this method is great if you've got a long sleeve or even 3/4 and you just want to shorten it a little bit. Now, if you're looking to take your long sleeve and make it a short sleeve, this method does not work because obviously the opening for your wrist is not the same length as the opening for your bicep. So what you just learned is my favorite way to lengthen or shorten a sleeve, still maintain the same lengths where you need them and the proportions to your project. I think this is such a simple, easy way to do it. And again, this method is for lengthening or shortening a sleeve where you're not changing the complete style. We're not going from long sleeve to short sleeve. We're just keeping the same style of sleeve, but just changing the length slightly, maybe a few inches. If you're 6'2" versus 5'2", obviously you're gonna have to change the length of that sleeve a little bit. And this method will work for any sleeve type, long, 3/4, or short. Just not if you're going from long to short or short to super long. So as long as you're staying within the same style of sleeve, this method is awesome. Thank you so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. If you have any questions about this process, leave it down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. And maybe you have a favorite method for lengthening or shortening a sleeve. Leave it down below for everyone else to read about. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when all the new tutorials come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you guys. So let me know what other videos you'd like to see coming up. And if you want to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my online and in-person sewing classes here in my design studio in Chicago. And we also have an online sewing club, so if you're not local, you can still join in on the sewing fun. And if you want to know what's going on right now in the design studio or what the new little kitten's up to, make sure you check out my Instagram stories. Thank you so much for watching today. Bye!